Today, I am really excited to welcome Rachael Hanley-Hine as our seminar speaker. Rachael is an advanced clinical practitioner and nurse consultant specialising in surgical same-day emergency care. After 12 years in cardiothoracic critical care, she transitioned to this new specialty in 2017 while completing her MSc in advanced clinical practice, and then quickly developed a passion for the field. Inspired by curiosity about clinical academia, Rachael undertook an NIHR ARC-GM Research Internship in 2023 and is now pursuing a part-time PhD at the University of Manchester, with her research focusing on the area she loves, surgical same-day emergency care. In this seminar, Rachael will share her research journey to date. I'll hand over to you without any further delays. Rachael, thank you so much.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. I will just share myself. So today I've been asked by Catalys to talk a little bit about my journey. So thank you everyone for taking the time to listen to my short session. I think I've been given 45 minutes. I'm not sure I'll take that long, but I can have been known to waffle at times. Please feel free to ask any questions at the end, and hopefully this will give you some insight into my journey. So yeah, as Jude said, I'm Rachael. I'm an advanced clinical practitioner. I think as a nurse, I have always identified as a nurse. And then when I was an advanced practitioner, when I became an advanced practitioner, I always still identified as a nurse, but an advanced practitioner as well. And now I'm a nurse consultant. I always find it very important to identify as an advanced clinical practitioner. That is the job that I do. I am a nurse consultant, but clinically I'm an advanced clinical practitioner. So that's why I always put nurse consultant, advanced clinical practitioner when I'm introducing my role. So hopefully today we'll have a little talk about navigating the career transition that I've taken to go from a junior nurse on cardiothoracic critical care from qualifying. Then I'll talk a little bit about what inspired me to become a clinical academic and pursue research and a PhD. It crept up on me slightly, but we'll get there. And then I'll talk a little bit about the NIHR ARC-GM Internship experience, the benefits that gave me, the challenges and the opportunities that that's afforded me. I'll then go on to talk about building confidence and identity as a new clinical academic, and this is yeah, an ongoing battle. And then balancing clinical leadership and my academic development. I'll try and give a little bit of practical advice for healthcare professionals considering this journey. And then right at the end, I'll talk a little bit about a snapshot into my research and what I'm actually looking into currently. So hopefully not too busy, but a bit of a timeline to talk about my journey, really. So in 2023, I started at the University of Manchester. So I've gone full circle back at the University of Manchester all these years later. And I was actually doing a diploma in nursing studies. So at the time, if you did a diploma in nursing studies, you could actually get a bursary to pay for your tuition fees. So I decided to do that as opposed to a BSc in nursing where you had to pay your own tuition fees. I did well on the course and I ended up getting a diploma with 60 level 3 credits, which meant at the end I just needed to do a small top-up dissertation module to make that into a BSc in nursing, which I did straight away as soon as I qualified. So I was very lucky from that point of view. I then got a job working on cardiac intensive care at Wythenshawe Hospital in Manchester. I'd done a placement on cardiac ICU during my training and I always loved it. I found it forward thinking, quite technological. I love tech in general, and yeah, this appealed to me. The team was excellent, and yeah, it was a great place to start my career. It's not for everyone. Starting a nursing career in ICU isn't for everyone, but for me it worked. I think it also helped that I'd been a healthcare assistant all the way through my training, so I felt I had a good grounding working within the hospital. Very quickly, I had a baby. So yeah, after only a year of working in ICU, I had a baby. My son, who's now 18, and applying to university himself currently. but I had 6 months maternity leave only, and then went straight back to work. And then my time on ICU, I had varying jobs. So I was a specialist nurse in organ retrieval, and junior sister on ICU that then merged with HDU. I then took on part of the practice-based education team role, and there were 200 plus staff on cardiothoracic critical care, and I helped the team in delivering education. And I think at this point I started really having a passion about evidence-based practice and having evidence backing everything that we did. And intensive care really drums this home. It's rapidly changing, the technology is rapidly changing, the patient interventions are rapidly changing, and I think definitely working there and some of the role models I had on critical care played a big part in my passion for pursuing research. I then did a bit of critical care outreach, going to see the sick patients on the wards from ICU, but also working on ICU. And then I became a Band 7 sister on ICU. And at this point, this was the crossroads in my career. I think as a Band 7 sister on ICU, you very much are involved in bed management, people management, and not a huge amount of actual clinical work. And I love looking after patients. That is my raison d'etre, is looking after patients, making the patient journey better. So I enjoyed the role, but I thought, right, what next? I was at the top of the sort of nursing tree in the ICU environment, and the option then was either to pursue the matron, lead nurse, head of nursing pathway, or to remain clinical and go towards advanced clinical practitioner. And to be honest, this wasn't even a question for me. This was what I wanted to do. So I thought about becoming an advanced clinical practitioner on intensive care or an advanced critical care practitioner. However, the level of autonomy, I think, is quite different because there are so many doctors on the unit. So I took a huge leap of faith and I actually left intensive care altogether. And I applied for a general surgery role, and it was specifically same-day emergency care in general surgery. This service didn't exist. Advanced practitioners didn't exist in this service at the hospital that I work at. And yeah, I just took a huge plunge into the dark, and it was the best thing I've ever done. So in 2017, I started my Masters in Advanced Clinical Practice at the University of Salford, which offers an excellent course for advanced clinical practice. I did it 2 years, and I absolutely love it. To this day, I love my job. I'm incredibly lucky. So yeah, from 2017 onwards, I have gained skills as an advanced clinical practitioner. I eventually became the most senior advanced clinical practitioner on the team, and then was the lead ACP. And then 1 week after my PhD interview, I had an interview to become a nurse consultant. So in 2023, the opportunity arose. And really, this was just word of mouth. I had a chat with someone that I'd known from working in ICU who mentioned the NIHR ARC-GM internship and said what fabulous opportunity it was as an insight into research. And I saw it, I applied for it. Oh, actually, I applied for the pre-doctoral fellowship first and was unsuccessful. And then the ARC-GM team suggested that I applied for the internship. This was a great opportunity, and I'll speak about that in a little bit. Immediately after the ARC-GM internship, the staffing on the unit was very, very poor, and applying for a fellowship was just not going to be possible. So I just bided my time and waited. And then all of a sudden, I was advised by Steve, who is one of the other directors of Catalys, to apply for Manchester Clinical Academic Centre, which is now Catalys, apply for a fees-only PhD funding. It was the most terrifying interview of my life, but I obviously defended my plan well, and here I am, and I was successful in gaining funding. That was a big day. Yeah, and I still feel incredibly proud that I went for it, really. Yeah, the week after, I then had my nurse consultant interview, which was equally scary, but I was successful in that as well. So 2024 October, I started a 6-year part-time PhD looking at advanced clinical practitioner delivered surgical SDEC, and that's where I am now. So I've just entered year 2, and I'm 50% clinical and 50% research. So what inspired me? I think, as I've already mentioned, I have a passion for evidence-based nursing practice. I think seeing something, care delivery that you're giving to a patient and understanding the evidence that backs that is really important to me. I spend a lot of time explaining the evidence to my patients, not so much on ICU because they weren't always awake, but currently in same-day emergency care, I talk about the evidence base every day. I explain things to my patients in a way that they can understand and tell them how the evidence backs the clinical decisions I am making. And to me, that's very important. I think it's important in everything that we do to understand why. And I stress that to my junior colleagues. I stress that to my son. I stress that to myself. We need to understand why. And I have a massive desire to improve patient care through research. There's, patient pathways, patient treatment. There is a continual learning curve, and it is important to know about that. And it's fabulous to be able to be a part of that. Also, I think real world impact. So for me to see how research that I've been involved in affects my practice and my patients and the unit and the staff that I work with. For example, on my unit, we've just been involved in a trial called Clarity. So this was a trial looking at imaging for appendicitis and acute appendicitis. So it was looking at a change in the use of the radiological investigations used for diagnosis of appendicitis and scoring tools associated with diagnosis of appendicitis. So the unit was heavily involved. One of our team of ACPs was heavily involved, and this has massively changed our practice. We've taken a full flip from using ultrasound in diagnosing appendicitis to CT scan, low dose CT scan, and the sensitivity and specificity of CT compared to ultrasound is far greater, and it's changed our practice. The internship opened new doors for opportunities with patient feedback, patient involvement, and this was a great opportunity for insight into real world research. I was encouraged to apply for PhD funding. I never in a million years thought that I would be sat here doing a PhD. And I think that's important for everyone that's taken the time to attend today, for you to, even if you're considering this as part of your journey, you might not be able to see it at the moment, but it is possible for everybody. And I feel incredibly privileged to be in this position, to be pursuing my own research. I did have a never again moment when I did my master's. I think I have it every time I have a significant academic journey. I think, I can't bear to do any more academic work ever again. That's me done. And I said it after my BSc. I said it after I'd done my non-medical prescribing. I said it after I'd done my master's, and yet here I am. I don't think I can go on ad infinitum, but we'll see. So I'll talk a little bit about the internship. This slide is a little bit busy, but this was the poster that I had to, at the end of the internship, there's a focus day where you sit and say what you've gained from the internship. And this was the poster that I presented at that. It is available somewhere online and it talks at you if anyone's interested. But it was an unexpected turning point in my career towards being a clinical academic. It really was a case of right place, right time. I just happened to have a conversation with the right person. I did know these internships and these fellowships existed out there, but I don't think I ever had the bandwidth to think, oh, is that for me? And it just so happened that I had a conversation with someone and I thought, actually, that might be interesting. The internship basically gives you a year, and I got 20% of my time for a year to focus on the internship. You don't have to come out at the end of the internship with a particular piece of work, so you don't have to achieve something specific. The whole point of doing the internship is exposure to other people's research. So you can be part of someone else's research team, you can go to their research meetings, you can have practice supervision sessions. I took part in PPIE groups with patients. I got to go to conferences. You get a small budget that you can use for whatever you like, as long as it's helping towards your internship journey. So I actually went to the association, the ASGBI of Surgeons for Great Britain and Ireland. My internship fund paid for that, and I presented at that conference. And I think having the time to spend the time to get a presentation together, show it to my supervisors, and then having the training budget to be able to go to the conference really did make a difference in that. I felt like I had a separate space to be able to pursue that. As I say, I had a couple of publications, only very small abstracts during the internship, and having access to supervision. And I think if you are thinking about doing a doctoral fellowship, pre-doctoral fellowship, having supervision and having practice supervision and understanding what that's about and how you can use it, that is really great insight that you get from the internship. Now, I'm really mindful to say at this point that I was incredibly lucky in the support I had doing the internship. So as an advanced clinical practitioner in my organisation, we get 80% clinical time and 20% protected non-clinical time. So I was able to use this 20% non-clinical time towards my internship. It was actually 25% the internship you're supposed to have. So I did slightly more, but I was incredibly lucky. My senior leadership team supported me in that. The nursing managers supported me in that, and I did have protected time. I know that not everybody is that lucky, and there were other interns on the journey that I was on that didn't have that protected time, and that makes it quite difficult. So if there are any senior nurses, any senior leaders on the call, I think it's important to appreciate that if you have that investment in time in people pursuing research, it really is positive and beneficial for your unit, for your department, and for the individual. I noticed at the showcase also, the internship showcase at the end, where we all presented these posters, that everyone had a completely different journey to me. So some people had used the budget similar to me and gone on conferences. Some people had done completely different things, done courses, etc. And it was really fascinating to listen to everybody's different journey. So yeah, if you look on the ARC-GM website, if you look at the showcase events, you can see everybody, all the different intern journeys, and it's actually quite interesting to see. A little bit about building. I'm not sure I'm entirely in the place to be able to talk about this, building confidence and identity as a new clinical academic, because this is definitely an ongoing battle and a learning journey. The confidence to even call myself a clinical academic is difficult at this point. I'm 2 years part-time into a PhD, and do I consider myself a clinical academic? I'm not entirely sure. I think I see my supervisors as academics. I see Jude as an academic. I see other people around me as academics and clinical academics, but I'm still don't think I see myself as a clinical academic, even though I believe I am on that journey. Imposter syndrome is real. Even letting anybody know about this webinar today, it felt odd. Like I think I do struggle with. I quite like to just do my work, so it is slightly odd, and the same with working towards more publication. My supervisors are constantly going, well, are we going to publish this? Are we going to publish this? And I still feel that is definitely a step that needs to click with me. I'm getting there. I feel like I I'm legitimate on this journey, but it definitely, the confidence is tricky. I think the big reason for this is the shift from clinical to clinical academic. As a clinician, I feel senior. I feel like I know what I'm doing. I feel like people come to me to ask them for help with managing their patients, and that means that I have confidence in what I do. I'm confident in looking after my patients and managing my patients clinically. But as an academic and as a clinical academic, I have no clue what I'm doing most of the time. My supervisor tells me that doing a PhD is learning how to be a researcher, and I have to keep reminding myself of that. I am learning how to be a researcher, and I'm learning how to do research, and that's what my supervisors are there for. Asking for help is imperative. If you don't ask, you don't get. Asking if you can speak to someone about something, asking friends, asking academic people that you know, asking clinicians that you know have an interest in academia. If you don't ask, you don't get. And the worst thing that can happen is someone says, I haven't got time, or no, sorry, or I don't think that's important. So I think always ask. The other thing, ARC-GM's definitely helped with networking, as has having red hair and a memorable surname. I think people remember my double-barreled surname if they go, oh yeah, I remember. And people, if they've seen me, remember my red head, which sometimes can get me in trouble, but it does help with networking. And the other thing that I think is incredibly important is sharing opportunities, sharing links for courses that are available, sharing postings that are available, sharing my journey. This hopefully is helpful for other people who don't know how to get to that point. So I think sharing my journey, sharing my time, allowing people to shadow our team. My team are really generous with allowing people to shadow. So I think that is all important in building confidence and identity. And just the most important, ask for help. Don't be afraid of asking for help. Don't be afraid of reaching out to someone. At the end of this, when I say, if anyone has any questions, get in touch, I mean it. I'm not just saying it for the sake of it. I will always get back in touch. I will always respond to emails. So I think that's important for anyone at any stage of your journey. Balancing clinical leadership and academic development. This is a really, really tricky part of the job. Balancing being academic and being clinical and knowing where to be. So for me, I have an office at work on our unit. There's an office that I can use at the university, and then I have this space that I'm currently in at home. And it's a constant battle to know where is best to be on the day where I have academic work to do. I know that if I go to work and I'm there, then often I am available. And if I have a piece of work that I really need to get done or a deadline, sometimes it's difficult to concentrate if people come in my office. However, I want to be available, and this is a constant struggle for me. I have got better at thinking, right, if I've got a deadline, then I just stay at home. If I have a deadline, I stay at home and I work and I get my head down and I have silence. If I don't have a deadline and I have lots of sort of bitty tasks to be doing, then I can go into work. And I like to be about, I like to be there, I like to be on the unit. So yeah, this is definitely a difficult balance for me. Where to work, when to say no, and again, asking for help. I think if you're not sure, other people have tips and they will give you tips and go, I find that if I've got X, Y, and Z to do, it's better for me that I try this. I've been and worked in my supervisor's office when I had deadlines, and this has helped as well. I think the other thing that's really important is being organised, keeping notes, keeping a log of what you do on every day. If I know that I have achieved something on a particular day, to be able to look back in my notebook and find it, that's very important to me. So I keep a log of every day. Yeah, practical help and practical considerations. I think I hope what's come from this is understanding that everybody's journey is completely different. I started off as a junior nurse on intensive care, and I was very lucky with opportunities that came my way. But there are other people that I know that are sat in this position doing PhDs whose journey has been completely different. There isn't one right pathway. I guess it's just if you have insight and exposure to different people's journeys, it means that you have opportunity to investigate which way you would like to go. It'll take time to find a style of working that works for you. It's different. Everyone is different. My other half is can go in the zone and completely focus and just get on with work. I very much need to do some work, stop for a while, do a little bit more. So you'll find a style, you'll find your way, and it is a work in progress still for me. I envisage this will be a lifelong journey of finding the right way to work. And don't be afraid to ask for help, ask how something works. Just ask, just email, and I can't say that enough. Shadow other practitioners. If you're interested in someone's role, if you're interested in how someone got to where they are, most people, if you ask them, would you mind if I spent a little bit of time with you? Would you mind if I came and spent a bit of time on a unit with you? Most people will say no, say yes. They won't say no. They'll be open and they will say, come on, let's have a look. And my team certainly are welcome to that. Have a look at the Catalys newsletter for opportunities. There are opportunities out there for funding opportunities, internship opportunities. There's all sorts. Have a look. Those newsletters come out regularly. Have a scour through and see what's available. And then just to reiterate as well, keep a log of everything that you do. So for anyone who's interested into a snapshot about my research and the journey that I am currently on. So as I said, my job is currently part-time, 50% clinical and 50% research. The first whole year of which obviously only equates to 6 months of my PhD journey, was based on doing a literature review of the literature available on SDEC, so on same-day emergency care, so widely about all SDEC. So this showed limited papers, even more limited on speciality SDEC, so for example surgical SDEC such as my own. Really I wanted to know how many are there, what workforce do they use, and none of this data was available. So at the end of this literature review, myself and my supervision team, I have decided to do a national survey of all surgical SDECs. So I'm in the process of, I've just written a protocol for my survey. I've had meetings with the ASGBI, the Association of Surgeons for Great Britain and Ireland, and GERFT, getting it right first time, and they luckily for me have agreed to collaborate with me on my questionnaire, my national questionnaire. So this is going to go out later on in the year to all surgical SDECs in England, and hopefully we'll get a decent response rate, and then on the back of that I will then write up this survey and the results of this survey and aim to publish that. And then next we hope to look at patient experience and patient involvement. We hope to look at cost and the service, and basically the service design of same-day emergency care, but specifically surgical same-day emergency care, with a focus on advanced clinical practitioners being utilised in this service. I think the other thing to mention, which is really clear when you listen to me now at this point at the beginning of year 2 talking about my research, yes, you have to have a question. Going into applying for funding for a PhD, you have to have a question of what you're going to look at. And my question was something like the benefits and determinants of advanced clinical practitioner-led same-day emergency care. That title that I applied for my PhD with is not going to be the end goal. So I am learning how to do research. And the more research that you do in a certain topic, the more that you realise actually what you thought was going to be the end goal at the beginning isn't actually relevant or needed. The literature guides you, and the gaps in the literature guide you, and they show you what actually needs work. And that's where I'm at the moment. My supervisors are fabulous. They're incredibly supportive and available and experienced, which also reiterates my lack of confidence because they are so excellent and experienced. But I'm sure I will get there. So yeah, I knew I wasn't going to take 45 minutes, so apologies for only being half an hour. But if anybody has any questions or so feel free to email me, and if anyone's got any questions, then please feel free to fire away. If everyone could scan that QR code and give me some feedback on the presentation also, I would be really grateful. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you so much for that, Rachel. If anyone has any questions, please put them in the chat or put them in the Q&A. We do have one question from Alice, who said, will the slides be sent out? Yes, the recording will be made available on YouTube. We also have a comment from Catherine, who says, this point about clinical confidence versus academic confidence completely resonates with me, Rachel. Yeah, I guess I wanted to explore that with you a bit more as well, Rachel, myself, because we've spoken about this before on imposter syndrome. And I suppose I almost get a little bit agitated when people talk about imposter syndrome, because I think, oh, it's not real. Like clinical academia isn't a club, it's an activity, and people make clubs as part of it, but you don't need to be in any club to do it. But I'd be so interested to hear a bit more from you about that. How have you dealt with imposter syndrome?
I think most importantly, telling myself that this is coming from me. This isn't anybody else. This is coming from me. This is me thinking, oh, it's uncertainty, and it's just experience. You know, when I first began as a nurse on ICU, I felt like an imposter because I was inexperienced in what I was doing. And I am now, at the moment, inexperienced in research. And that's why saying I am learning how to do research, and that's really important. So in 6 years' time, I will be much more experienced and much more knowledgeable. But I think actually feeling like a bit of an imposter when you're new at something is okay. And I think knowing that comes from me, I understand it. I acknowledge it. I am honest about it. But it's just important to know where it comes from, but not letting it stop you. Don't let it stop you, because that's where it's a difficulty. If it stops you doing things, then it's a trouble. But yeah, just being aware of it, owning it and riding it is important, and it's normal.
Yeah. Oh, it's definitely normal. And I think you're being a bit unfair. Like, I think there is something about academia that leads us to feel imposter syndrome. I think there is a really strong competitive edge, and it's not always supportive, etc. So yeah, but no, that's so interesting to hear. We have a few questions as well in the chat, so I won't keep going on myself. So the first question is, I would love to understand about the fees only award. How did you get line management approval? I really struggle with this element.
Okay, hi Ian. So as I said, I applied for fees only. My role at the time when I applied for the fees only PhD was as an advanced clinical practitioner. I was 80% clinical and 20% non-clinical. And my fees only PhD said, right, so basically it says, we're going to pay for your fees to do the PhD over 6 years. That's all that's the award that I got. Finding the time to do that was up to me. So the funding was completely separate to the time. I was incredibly lucky that the week after I applied for my PhD, I applied for a nurse consultant role, and the nurse consultant role within the contract, it said it is 50% clinical and 50% research. So I have 50% of my time available to me to do research. I do have to manage the ACP team as well within that non-clinical time, so that is a bit of a balance, but yeah, I am incredibly lucky. I do stress that, and that's why I wanted to stress to, if there are any managers out there, you know, supporting people on this journey is, you know, only pays dividends going forward, and it's really important. My senior nursing team definitely appreciate that. It looks good for the department. If you have someone pursuing research in your department, in your field, then that looks good. So I think that's important. Sorry, I hope that's answered it, Ian. And I do know that is a struggle for many people. If I had to do it, if I was 80%, if I was 80-20 still, and I had to do it in that time, and I got fees only, would I do it? Yes, I would have just done it somehow. It would have been hard, but I think I would. But yeah, it's difficult.
Great. We have lots of comments, but we have a few questions too. So the next question is, did you always want to pursue a PhD?
No. No, I did not. Everyone always used to joke when I said, "Oh, you'll be doing a PhD. You say you don't want to do anymore." I absolutely didn't. I was never. I was naughty at school. I was naughty. I misbehaved. I was in trouble. I was the red-headed kid. And I did all right. I went to uni. I did all right. Went to nursing. I did well. I just wanted to be a nurse. I just wanted to look after patients. And then when I heard about ACP roles, I wanted to be an ACP. That's what I really wanted to do. So, and now if I can do research that's demonstrating how great ACPs are and how great SDEC is, if my research can demonstrate what I love is great, then it's win-win for me. So no, I didn't always want to, but I'm really glad that I am.
Oh, that's so interesting to hear, Rich. I'm the same, actually. I just wanted to be a therapist, and then it turned out I just wanted to be an academic. But here we go. Okay, the next question. Did you decide to do a PhD, then came up with a research question, or did the research question lead you to pursue the PhD?
So as I say, I did the internship. I then found out there was an opportunity to do the pre-doctoral fellowship. And just as I was about to apply for that, looking at advanced clinical practitioner led and delivered same-day emergency care, my Steve, who's now one of my PhD supervisors, said, "Do you know what, Rachel? You could apply for the pre-doctoral fellowship, but there's actually some PhD funding. Why don't you just apply for the PhD funding?" I was not ready. I had not thought about a very specific question. I'd thought about the general area of research, but I'd not thought about a specific question. And the interview was next week. I do not recommend that to anybody, doing that in a week, because it took, I don't think I slept very much. I did a lot of preparation, but no, I knew my area of research, and then I forged a question, but then I had to go and defend that question. I had to defend in the interview why that was going to be beneficial to me, to the service. So yeah, so no, I didn't have a specific question, but I had an area, and then I presented that within the PhD application.
Fabulous. So more lovely comments, and I do suggest you read them when you have a chance, Rachel. But one more question, which is, what would you have done if you didn't get the nurse consultant role for covering the cost of your research time?
I think I answered this before, just when I was answering another question, but I think I would have done it anyway. I recognise I'm lucky that we work 4 days a week, so I do 8 till 6, 4 days a week. So I always have a floating day in the week. I often use that day now for extra work. If I've got a deadline, I know I have some weeks that are less heavy and some that are more heavy, and I'll use that week. I think I recognise what a privilege it is to have been awarded a fees only PhD, and to be able to do that. I think I probably would have done it anyway. I would have been knackered, but I think I probably would have pursued it, but I can't say definitely. I can't say, because I was fortunate enough to get that.
Great, thank you so much. So I think that is all our questions. So I'm just going to share our sort of closing slide today. Thank you so much, Rachel. I was inspired to hear your talk, and I always love hearing you talk about what you do. You bring such passion to it. And thank you so much, everyone, for joining. And thank you for all your lovely comments and questions as well in the chat. It was so great to hear your feedback. Just as I close, I guess just a bit of information. I'm aware Rachel shared about our mailing list. Unfortunately, that is only open to clinicians based at MFT, Manchester University NHS Foundation Trust, or the University of Manchester. But we do also share a lot of information on all of our social media. So please do follow there if you want more sort of encouragement, inspiration, and opportunities information about research funding opportunities. And also just to flag that we do have another seminar coming up with Dr. Paula Bennett, who is the Chief Nurse for Health Innovation Manchester. She's also a clinical academic, talking about her atypical clinical academic career journey. So please join us for that too if you'd like to hear more about clinical academic careers, particularly in nursing.